Well, imagine a 78-year-old man who often speaks incoherently and lies to you in ways that leave you wondering whether he is a pathological liar or delusional or both, pocket dials someone he doesn't want to talk to at 1:28 a.m. And then imagine that same 78-year-old man is angrily braying at the world at 5:24 a.m., claiming people have committed crimes that do not exist, and coming up with a name for those people committing the crimes that don't exist, using words that have never been joined together and make absolutely no sense. Of course you would be concerned about the mental health of such a person. Of course you would assume some kind of serious neurological decline in the 78-year-old man. Imagine that same 78-year-old man also said, "I run the country and the world." With Donald Trump, who did every one of those things. He butt-dialed a reporter for The Atlantic at 1:28 a.m. who he did not want to talk to, but with whom he did eventually do an interview in which he said, "I run the country and the world." No one runs the country. No one ever has. No one ever will. This country was founded on that very principle. This country was founded by people escaping the rule of one person, escaping the rule of a king. And so, no, the president does not run the country. The president, at best, if he knows what he's doing, runs a section and only a section of the federal government, the executive branch. And so, no, Donald Trump does not run the country and the world. And it sounds fully delusional when he says it in an interview with The Atlantic, which now carries that line as the title of the piece. I run the country. The man who says, "I run the world," is being rebuked literally by the world right now and every single day since he has imposed tariffs on the world. Not one country has accepted those tariffs. Not one country isn't fighting back against those tariffs. How much Donald Trump does not run the world. Donald Trump started a trade war that he is losing every day. Donald Trump could not have chosen a stupider or more delusional moment to say, "I run the country and the world." As of tonight, new polling indicates the country doesn't want Donald Trump running anything now. Donald Trump has achieved a new record, and all of Donald Trump's records are the most extreme form of negative achievement. A new Washington Post poll awards a record to Donald Trump, reporting that Donald Trump's job approval rating is, quote, lower than for any past president at the 100-day mark in their first or second terms. Donald Trump is now America's biggest loser in the history of first 100-day presidential polling. 55% say they disapprove of how Donald Trump is handling his job, and only 39% approve. Donald Trump won 49% of the vote in the last election, but he couldn't come close to that now. The only comfort for Donald Trump in this week's new round of polling is that the richest person in the world polls just slightly worse than Donald Trump. 57% disapprove of what Elon Musk is doing, with just 35% approving. Americans think that the Trump-invented so-called Department of Government Efficiency, allegedly run by Elon Musk, isn't finding waste or fraud in government. 56% say that waste has either stayed the same or has increased, compared to 43% who think it has decreased. And 68% say that fraud has either stayed the same or has increased. Donald Trump, speaking of fraud, is the first president of the United States to try to hustle private business ventures from the White House and do it publicly, auctioning off for money that he can put in his pocket, not for campaign contributions, dinners at the White House, creating his own cryptocurrency coin business. No president has ever tried to profit from the presidency while in the White House, but he does not run the country, and he absolutely does not run the world. It's not just every other country in the world that knows how harmful the Trump tariffs are. A huge majority of Americans know that. 64% disapprove of Donald Trump's tariffs. The Washington Post calls it one of the least popular issues so far in Trump's presidency. 64% of the people in this country know that Donald Trump's tariffs are a very bad idea. 72% say they think it's very or somewhat likely that his economic policies will cause a recession. 72% say Donald Trump is on his way to causing a recession, and it's very, very hard in modern American politics to get polling numbers like 72% on anything. And it is virtually impossible to get polling numbers like 89%. Only something as obviously deranged as the Trump tariffs could produce that kind of number in a poll. 89% think the Trump tariffs are likely to result in higher prices on the products they buy. 89% are saying in that poll they know Donald Trump lied every single time he told them during the presidential campaign that China would pay his tariffs. 89% are saying they know Donald Trump was lying when he said the tariffs that he will impose will be paid by Canada and paid by Mexico and by all the foreign countries he illegally imposes tariffs on, claiming that it's a national security issue, which it obviously isn't. Tonight, 89% know the man who claims to run the country and the world is completely wrong about who actually pays the Trump tariffs. They understand exactly what all those radio and TV ads from car dealers are about, telling them to rush in to get the pre-tariff price on a new car. And they know time is running out or has run out for that pre-tariff price. And they're going to pay that tariff if they buy a new car. At 5:24 a.m. today, the man who thinks he runs the country and the world reacted to the Washington Post poll by, of course, attacking the poll and calling the people who conduct the poll, quote, his words, negative criminals. In a new article titled, "Trump's Tariffs Have Done What No U.S. Adversary Could," Branko Marcelik writes, "The blanket, erratic, and often nonsensical nature of the tariffs has, far from showing signs of jumpstarting the long process of reshoring manufacturing jobs, actually proven a major obstacle to that project, while also leading manufacturers to shed jobs or scale back their plans and plunging the entire U.S. economy into uncertainty more broadly." This reached a crescendo with the mass sell-off of U.S. Treasury bonds earlier this month that briefly threatened to send the entire U.S. financial system buckling. So much for the man who says, "I run the country and the world." The guy who claims he runs the world has not been able to negotiate a single trade deal with a single country in the world since promising 90 deals in 90 days. That makes Donald Trump, according to his own definition of success in this arena, the biggest loser in international trade in the history of the American presidency, and no amount of delusional screaming about Donald Trump's negative criminals can change what Donald Trump has done to make himself such a humiliated worldwide loser.